Life is an opportunity, grab it. Life is full of beautiful moments, cherish it. Life is an inspiration, inspire. Life is also sharing, share, because you get what you give. Life is fair. Life is beautiful. Brought to you by Dandruff हटाउनुहोस् मात्र एक washमा Head and Shoulders. Brought to you by Dandruff हटाउनुहोस् मात्र एक washमा Head and Shoulders. Namaste, I'm Prabha Mate and welcome to Life is Beautiful right here only on Kantipur Television. बुद्धि र वृद्धिको तालमेल उमेरसँग भन्दा पनि आफ्नो मेहनत र लगनशीलतामा भर पर्दछ। यदि आत्मविश्वासका साथ निरन्तर प्रयास गर्ने हो भने यो 21औं शताब्दीलाई अवसरको स्वर्णिम युग भन्दा फरक नपर्ला। यस्तै अवसरलाई आफ्नो मन, वचन र कर्मले आत्मसात गर्दै सानै उमेरमा ठूलो काम गरिसक्नु भइसकेको इन्डियन अमेरिकन युवा व्यक्तित्व आकाश पटेल आजको मेरो ब्युटिफुल गेस्ट जसले 1 लाख भन्दा पनि बढी युवाहरूको माझमा आफ्नो मोटिभेशनल स्पीच दिइसक्नु भइसकेको छ र फर्स्ट लेडीको अफिसमा गुडविल एम्बेसडर र काउन्सिलेटको रूपमा ह्युमन ट्राफिकिङ, एचआईभी र क्यान्सर जस्तो समस्याहरूको समाधानको लागि सहकार्य पनि गरिसक्नु भइसकेको छ। सो आकाश पटेल इज आवर ब्युटिफुल गेस्ट फर द सेगमेन्ट ब्युटिफुल पिपल। First of all, Akash, welcome to Life is Beautiful.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. This is your first time in Nepal. So what brought you here in Nepal?
What brought me to Nepal? Facebook. Thanks to Facebook, I met a lot of leaders, especially Mr. Shah and Mr. Kim and other artists and tabla maestros. And I was on a trip to Dubai, London, India, and then I finally decided to make it to Nepal and work with youth and empower the youth and inspire them in Nepal.
What inspired you to work on serious issues and that too not in so serious age?
My mom was definitely an inspiration, even though she always wanted me to be an engineer, doctor, but she always inspired me. She was an inspiration. She motivated me to be a speaker, and my teachers were an inspiration. Not all the teachers in all the schools around the world are as inspiring and as motivating as my teachers. Otherwise, today I would have been an engineer working with machines rather than working with human trafficking victims or working with students at schools and colleges or working with jail inmates. So my teachers and my mom are definitely an inspiration.
There's a myth among common youth, especially or particularly South Asia, that your ethnicity becomes hindrance to do well globally. How do you defend on this statement?
Ethnicity definitely is a barrier, especially the caste system, as I've been seeing and observing in India and Nepal. But my message to the youth is that you're never too young or never too old to make a difference. And you might be 12-year-old, you might be 15-year-old, you might be 18, you might be 8. As long as you have the zeal, there's no power in this universe that can stop you from achieving what you're destined to achieve. But you have to have the drive and the passion to pursue it. I understand ethnicity is a problem, but I've seen a lot of students come out of their ethnic barriers and study in the cities and reach higher heights.
Can you share your experience working with the First Lady?
I've been working as a Goodwill Ambassador at the Office of the First Lady of the Dominican Republic, and I've worked with a lot of leaders at the United Nations, at the UNESCO, and I've been working for international government agencies in Costa Rica, working with a lot of social projects, especially empowering young people, empowering people in jails, empowering people in very rural areas, rural kids, and empowering them to dream bigger and to pursue their passion.
How do you channel your findings into solving problems?
I was 16, and the first time I have been to a slum, when I was traveling with my parents, and I'd never seen such poverty, never seen such misery, never seen people forced into trafficking, never seen people forced into drug abuse or alcohol abuse. And that was a turning point in my life when I decided that, hey, I need to get up and encourage young people to make a difference. And I came across a lot of people, even in Nepal, all of them like to, criticize the government, blame the government for everything they do. I went to a government school and they were talking about their half-a-kilometer street which is full of trash. So I told them, what are you doing about it, instead of complaining to the politicians? So I asked them to do one thing. I was like, instead of complaining about it, let's all 100 of us get together. I will sponsor your gloves and I will sponsor the mask. And we will clean the street in less than 10 minutes. And we'll let the media be there, we'll let the politicians be there, and the politicians will be put to shame if 100 people together work on several projects. And that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years.
You're also one of the high-level nuclear delegates in India. How did you get into this affair?
Well, yes. Now, I need to mention this because in South Asia, a lot of parents force you to do something that they think is a lucrative career. Like especially my mom, since she's Indian, she always had a perspective, always had a notion that engineers make all the money, doctors make all the money. So for the first 6 months, even though I started my career as a motivational speaker at 16 years of age, my mom forced me to be an engineer. When I was 18 and I went to the United States at Iowa State University, for the first 6 months I studied nuclear engineering. And I did well. I made A's and I was a nuclear delegate, went with the U.S. State Department and a top-notch nuclear scientist, Dr. Carolyn Heising. And we spoke at IIT, we spoke at BITS, we spoke at some of the top-notch universities in South Asia. So the only problem was that I did not like engineering. I didn't think that I would like to work with machines in the future. I like to work with people. I like to work with the environment. I like to work with social projects and empower young people. So I decided to quit engineering and I pursued my associates in speech emphasis, public speaking, and associates in certificate of mastery in Spanish. And I did what I love, and I did what I like.
After a recent nuclear disaster in Japan, the entire world is wary about nuclear power. What is your opinion on nuclear energy?
Nuclear energy is one of the cleanest and safest energies. And what I concentrated on was not uranium-based cycles, but thorium-based cycles. Uranium-based takes whole lot of years to decay, whereas compared to thorium waste, we have a lot of thorium reserves in Australia and in India which are not being used at the moment. But if you talk of thorium cycles, we have a way where we can use the waste and recycle the waste. So it is one of the very sustainable, and just a gram of thorium can give you thousands of megawatts of electricity. So nuclear energy is definitely safe, but you have to talk of nuclear analysis and safety measures before you set up a plant. Definitely, because Japan was a very big disaster, and there have been disasters in other places too, in other countries around the world. So we have to be careful, but that does not mean that people will stop from using nuclear energy as a source of energy. France still gets 90% of its electricity from nuclear energy, nuclear power. And still, there are no nuclear disasters in France. 90% of the electricity comes from nuclear energy. We have over 100 nuclear plants in the United States. Nuclear energy, you have to be a little careful. Nuclear analysis is a must.
So what are your findings in Nepal so far?
So far, the very first day I was very surprised, and this is my message to everybody, that I was walking in Tamil, and there was a very little kid, 8 years old, and he walked up to me, he was smoking, and then he's like, "Sir, ganja." And I was very surprised and touched that day. That's why I went up with some U.S. Embassy Advisory Council, Youth Advisory Council members. And in the morning, usually, I start my morning at 6 o'clock and work with street kids and spend time with these kids, which I want to do in the future. Right now, I'm just observing the country and the social projects because this is my first time in the country. But next time when I visit the country for a month, I will come with a large group of international volunteers and work directly with young projects and projects with young people, and educate them and also empower them and give them the employment opportunities which will keep them away from drug abuse or from glue sniffing.
Did you also get to meet some of our government officials?
Quite a lot of diplomats, government officials, and I met the Prime Minister, the Prime Minister's secretary, former Prime Ministers, and...
So what is the first impression?
The first impression is that they have a very wonderful vision for the country. They have a vision for the country, but what I realized over the next 5-6 days when I was traveling in Tamil and other neighboring areas of Kathmandu, that the vision does not actually manifest in the streets. The vision must manifest in the streets and into action on the streets.
You have been a freelance journalist in major newspaper and have covered youth issues and global issues as well. What are your future plans?
Well, right now I have pursued my associates in speech emphasis and certificate of mastery in Spanish, so I've been teaching. I still freelance for newspapers. My future plan is to be a full-time diplomat, and that's why I'm also simultaneously pursuing my bachelor's in international relations, and I intend to work as a full-time diplomat with the United Nations or with the U.S. State Department in the long run.
So we hope to see you as an ambassador to Nepal as well.
Yes, in the long run, probably, and work with a lot of social projects in the country and with the people and with the environment.
You are a motivational speaker, and your lectures focus more on cultural and moral education. Why do you think it is so important?
It's very important, especially in the United States. When I worked 2 years ago as a cultural and an international student ambassador in the state of Iowa, I've been to some small towns in our state. The towns are very small, like 100 people, and predominantly white. They have never seen somebody with a brown skin. So when I went and I was imparting moral education and cultural education in those states, a lot of people up there thought that people in Nepal and people in India still ride elephants to work. People in India live in the slums because they've seen Slumdog Millionaire. So, I mean, that's not how it is. That's not the right picture. So we have to dispel the stereotypes through cultural and moral education. We have to show them that, oh, there's other people than white people. There are brown people, colored people in the world. And we have to teach them to tolerate other cultures, other beliefs, and other religions. So that's a part of my cultural education in the United States.
What are the common challenges to youths in the US and how they differ from our region, let's say South Asia?
Well, there's a few problems that are similar, especially pessimism. When you get into the field at a tender age of 16 years, I mean, people are very pessimistic, people are very skeptical. They'll be like, oh, Akash, you're 16 years of age. All you can do is go to school. You cannot come. What are you going to talk to my students about? Pessimism is definitely a big obstacle that I have come across. Pessimism from my parents, my own family, pessimism from my teachers, pessimism from my peers. And over the years, when I proved myself that, hey, now I'm working for the international government or I'm working for international nonprofits, my mom is now convinced and she's like, Akash, go for it, do what you like, and enjoy your life.
Now, what is your message to our Nepali youth?
Nepali youth, my main message is do not underestimate the potential that you have in yourself, and do not let anybody else underestimate your potential just because of your ethnicity or because of your age. I was 16 years old when I started my journey. Let my life be a small inspiration to everybody and the Nepali youth that if he could be a motivational speaker at 16, if he could work for the office of the First Lady when he was 20, if he could, travel around 30 countries and spread the message of love and tolerance, then even us as individuals, as 12 years old, at 13 years old, or 14 years old, or any age, we can make a difference in the lives of people.
Of course, I do agree with Akash, because the earlier you start, the earlier you'll become successful. No? So now tell me, why life is beautiful to you?
My life is beautiful because I'm doing what I love to do, and I'm not doing what I was forced to do, and I'm not an engineer today, but I am a motivational speaker, a social activist, and a goodwill ambassador. I'm doing what I love. That's why I feel life is beautiful.
Okay, thank you so much, Akash, and it's lovely talking to you.
Thank you so much. My pleasure to meet y'all, and thank you for inviting me to your show.
I hope कि तपाईहरु पनि equally motivated हुनुभयो होला आकाशसँगको कुराकानी